This presentation provides a brief introduction to competitor analysis. One interesting aspect of competitor analysis is determining who the competitors actually are. It is not just other companies providing the same product or service, but any service or product that customers can use to fulfill the same needs as the company fulfills. In fact, it requires you to take a wide view of the customer needs that you are fulfilling and hence the industry you are in. Take the case of a regional airline whose main customer is the business traveller going to a meeting in another part of the country. Video conferencing, or just Skype or any other internet chat facility, is a serious competitor to the regional airlines business. In fact, the airline is not in the travel business, but also in the business of facilitating business meetings, and therefore any other means of providing this service is a competitor. When reviewing competitors, there are several areas that are worth considering. The future goals. Knowing what the future goals of your major competitors are is useful information in formulating your own competitive strategy. Suppose a competitor has a goal of becoming a major force in the domestic market. This may indicate that there are overseas markets that it is not interested in. The current strategy and situation. And this is not just in terms of products and pricing, but also the competitive strategy and the methods of growth the competitors are adopting. Are they competing mainly on price? Or are they growing via acquisition? This is all valuable information to take into account. The assumptions. It is useful to know the underlying assumptions that lie behind their strategy. For example, at one point, the two major manufacturers of airliners held different views as to how the future of air travel would develop. One believed hub and spoke would be the future. The other believed that point-to-point would be the preferred choice of passengers. Hub and spoke would require large aircraft to transport high volumes of passengers to a hub, who then transferred to smaller aircraft to reach their end destination. The Airbus 380 was aimed at the hub and spoke market, whereas point-to-point required aircraft capable of flying long haul but with more fuel efficiency, and the Boeing 787 was aimed at this market. Understanding the assumptions underlying your competitive strategy can aid the development of your own strategy, particularly if you feel their assumptions are fundamentally wrong. The strategic capability in terms of their strengths and weaknesses is also worth looking at, as this will give you an idea of their ability to deal with the changes in the environment, and in fact whether those changes constitute an opportunity or a threat for your competitors. A response profile. This is something that you build up over time and will help with future strategy developments. For example, knowing what your competitors are likely to do if you launch a new product, and understanding their capabilities will give you an idea of how long it will take them to respond. Just imagine Apple and Samsung in the mobile phone market assessing each other's capabilities. Information systems. This refers to your information systems. It is important to have a system in place that captures competitor information as part of the normal systems, so that it reduces the resources required to collect it. For example, make it part of somebody's job to monitor competitor advertising. There are primarily three sources of competitor information. They are recorded information, observable information, and opportunistic information. This slide illustrates typical sources of competitor information. Note how wide the sources are and that they cover a range of areas. The recorded information is largely in print and collected from documents and web sources. There are also a few overlaps. For example, observable data includes prices, which admittedly in some cases could be recorded on a website. The difference between recorded and observable is that recorded is deliberately put in the public domain and published, whereas the observable data might need to be teased out from various sources. It is always important to keep your eyes and ears open for information about competitors, so opportunistic data is an important source. People often talk about experiences and their knowledge of companies without prompting, and just overhearing a comment about a competitor can sometimes provide useful information about what they do, or even intend to do in the future. It is, however, worth remembering that not everything you hear will be true, so it is always important to cross-check with other sources. One technique that is useful for developing a competitive strategy is cluster analysis. Take any two axes, typically price and quality, and then map the competitors alongside your own organisation in relation to the axes used. It is then possible to identify who the immediate competitors are that occupy the same market sector and are targeting the same demographic customer. The maps are also known as positioning maps because you can deliberately develop a strategy to move away from the competitors and reposition the company in either an upmarket or downmarket position, assuming of course your intelligence tells you that there is a potential market there. When thinking of entering a new market, this can also be used to identify gaps in the market. Note, however, that there may be a reason for the gap. For example, there are no companies occupying the low quality, high price quadrant. The management accountant is able to assist in the analysis of competitors by gathering financial information about the competitors and evaluating their financial strengths and weaknesses. The strategies of competitors can be evaluated to assess their viability. For example, plans announced to expand in overseas markets, launch new products, or run extended promotions. The organisation's own experience and understanding of the industry can aid in this process, as well as tracking the record of competitor performance built up via the competitor information system and the response profile over a period of time. More specifically, the management accountant is able to evaluate the organisation's own ability to respond to competitor actions and assess the viability of various strategic responses. This video is part of a series of short videos that explain specific aspects of the strategic management framework and cover some of the strategy models that can be used in the analysis, formulation, implementation and review and control of strategy and the role of the management accountant. This presentation is provided as part of the support materials for the book Management Accounting in Support of Strategy by me, Graham S. Pitcher, and published by Business Expert Press.